Talking about costs of different sorts of backup solutions, and this is very general. Your results may vary, but roughly speaking, if you're looking at a tape drive backup and the tapes to run the backup, sort of leaving the software aside because a lot of us can use TechSoup to buy backup exec from Symantec, which is very popular for less than $100. But leaving that aside, what software you use aside, most of the organizations I'm working with are paying somewhere from $900 to about $1,200, $1,300 for tape backup and tapes, 12 tapes. If they're using the smaller tapes, it obviously goes up from there if you need more tapes, bigger tapes and things like that. A lot of the hard drive backup now is still $1,000 to $2,000 for the organizations I'm working with. But that's sometimes because they have more data. So sometimes their needs are, they're getting bigger hard drives, which is probably a good idea because the hard drive backup does enable to give you a little scalability. You could switch the hard drives that you're using when you need them, and it's a couple $100 for a new hard drive, and they keep getting bigger and the price stays about the same. But then jumping to online backup. First of all, I think online backup is wonderful. I personally am not at all comfortable with having only online backup. A lot of people are very tempted by it because it saves a lot of money, and I'm not comfortable. I just have seen too many times these sorts of things fail. We had a client last year, maybe 2 years ago, that lost everything because they had an online company they thought was doing backup. They hadn't been doing test restores, and they lost everything. It was just an absolute disaster. The hard drives, the computer they had failed. The backup turned out to be empty, offsite, and they just didn't have anything else. It was terrible. The costs of online backup, least expensive and most popular, at least from my perspective. A lot of people are using Mozy. Mozy Pro is about $5. Mozy is a couple dollars per gig for backup, so it's very affordable at small rates. It works pretty well. You can install it on the server or on an individual desktop computer. Runs a backup. If you get the Pro version, they'll email you, which I think is very important, so you know you've got the backup if you are a person who's not going to go check that every once in a while. You still need to do test backups. There are a lot of tools I like better than Mozy, but most of them cost more. There are a lot of local vendors, and I like having local vendors involved, where it's $10 to $15 a month a gig, although it really depends, and as you go up, it doesn't stay that expensive, but for small organizations, that's kind of what you're looking at. They are, a lot of their tools, they're installed on a server as well for the most part. I'm sure you can install it on a desktop, but I haven't done that. And they run alongside your nightly backup that goes to tape or hard drive, or and then email you an update that tells you what's there. They also can keep your data for months. So actually I've got some agencies where it's less expensive for us to keep the backup online for more than 30 days, like to keep a 60-day backup, than it is to keep it on the tapes, because the tapes are kind of pricey, and that has worked, although I must admit my customers haven't had a failure where we needed to go find 60-day-old or a year-old files yet. I'm sure it will happen, but it just hasn't happened yet.